Okay, for this next video, I'm going to do some very basic Espada Y Daga drills. Espada Y Daga is sword and dagger. But for the purpose of this drill, I'm going to do this with one stick, it's commonly done that way, and one knife, one dagger. Okay, so sometimes this is called the long and short stick method. Now, cognizant of the fact that most of the people that watch my videos come from a Kempo karate lineage, you may have very little exposure with stick training and knife training, which is perfectly okay. But these drills are going to be very basic and can help you build a foundation for building your coordination with Espada Y Daga. Just like the basics of Kempo, the basics are everything. So I'm going to do 4 basic drills. I think you're going to enjoy this. It's really easy. So I'm going to start off with the stick in my right hand and by my right shoulder, and my knife, my dagger, is by my left hip. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to strike with the stick, and as it retracts, it's going to feed the reverse thrust to the throat. Okay, so rather than following through with the strike, we call this like a broken strike, okay, or a controlled strike that I hit and pull back. So I strike to the temple or the jaw, and that feeds that knife strike. And so if I do that again, it goes 1, 2. It's almost like I'm being pulled into this. So these aren't separate units. I don't go 1 and now I give it permission to strike. No, as the stick is pulling back, that's where that knife thrust comes in. Now, if I do follow through, okay, as opposed to a broken strike, if I do follow through, there's the next one, I'm going to come through to my hip, then reverse that diagonal line, and that's going to feed the knife. So you notice 1 was palm up, 2nd was palm down. That would be the 130 to 730 line, and then the 730 line back to the 130 line. So I do the strike, and you notice as I pull back, that feeds the knife strike. Very basic. Diagonal, diagonal, and thrust. Now, if I do a downward figure 8, similar to what we do in American Kempo on a technique like hooking wings, where I do the hammer and the back knuckle to the jaw or temple, similarly, a downward figure 8 in Filipino martial arts looks like this. And notice that my legs don't stay in like a neutral though. I don't do this. That's all arm. I use my whole body in the direction of the strike. And then if I go back to this drill, that's going to feed the knife. So I would go 1, 2, feed. Downward figure 8, and feed. Notice that my knife thrust isn't hitting anywhere. It's exactly my throat height. So I'd be going jaw or temple, other side, jaw or temple, and then feed that throat. So I would go. Now if I reverse the figure 8, I would do an upward figure 8. And of course, that would feed my dagger. So I go 1, 2, 3. So if I put them all together, the first one was a broken and a feed. 2nd one was through and back. Downward figure 8, upward figure 8, strike. So one more time. Broken, diagonal, diagonal, downward figure 8, upward figure 8. So if this was Bob, I'll move him a little bit closer, and I was hitting Bob, I would hit to the head on the first strike, which would feed that throat strike. And if I followed through, this would be the same pattern. And if I did my downward figure 8, that would be the same pattern. If I did the upward figure 8, this is the pattern, and of course I would feed that throat shot. Give it a shot, guys. Good drills.